Hi everybody. Right now I'm going to talk to you about making half square triangles. It's the last part of the pieces that we're making to make our double star block, which is our January block that we're making for the Tranquility quilt. So we'll talk about marking the block, piecing it, and then cutting it down to size. As I've talked to you before, everything that we're making for the block is oversized, and then we're cutting them all down to make sure that everything fits perfectly in our block. So the things that you're making are the half square triangle A. You're going to use 4 fabrics, number 1 and 15, 1 and 15. And half square triangle B uses 2 fabrics, number 1 and 7 of the fabrics that you're using for this block. They're going to be cut 3 1/4 inches. So I'm using 2 fabrics that are not in the block, so you'll be using the correct fabrics, of course. So you're going to take, I'm using my Quilter's Magic Wand, and on the Magic Wand it has a little line right in the middle. You may or may not be able to see that, but it helps you mark that line perfectly. I'm going to line that up from point to point on my square. On the light fabric, wrong side of the fabric, mark each side of the fabric with a line all the way down, and that gives me my sewing line. I'm going to place right sides together, both fabric squares, place them under my machine, and then sew on the line. And I can place both squares under, and then I can actually sew all 6 of my squares when I'm making them at once for the block. And I'll just trim my squares in between, and then I can sew easily the other side, and it makes it go quickly. And then you'll just clip those apart. And then you'll just take your ruler and you'll cut right down the center from point to point. And I have with those 2 squares 4 half square triangles. And before I press them open, I like to just trim off my dog ears, and that takes care of it before I'm pressing it open. And you will press to the dark side. And I'll just open it with a little finger press, and that way I'll press it open rather than ironing it. Because if you iron it open, meaning ironing it like you're ironing clothes, that will stretch it out of shape. So I'm going to press that open, nice and flat. And then I'm going to show you how to cut these down to size, and you'd have your other 2 that you would press open also. So there's 3 different ways that you can, I have 3 different rulers that I'm going to show you how to cut these to size. These have to be cut down to 2 1/2 inches. So you can take a larger square. I have a 6 1/2 inch square that I can cut this down. You need a square ruler because these square rulers have a line in the middle that you would then line up that line on your block. So I would take my 2 1/2 inches here. If you have a good line on the edge, you can keep that clean. A lot of times it isn't clean. So I would have to line this up in the middle, cut this down 2 1/2 inches, turn it around to the other side, and then line it on my 2 1/2 inches and square it up. So that's one way to use one large ruler. It's a little easier if you have a 2 1/2 inch ruler that's exactly that size. I'll put it right in the center, take my ruler, cut off the first side, and then turn it around. And then I have that clean side, line it right up on the edge. And then cut it off. So you have 2 cuts, or 4 cuts, 2 on each side, and then I have a little ear there to cut off. So they have your perfect 2 1/2 inch. Now another really great ruler is the Bloc lock. So if you're really concerned about being accurate, use this Bloc lock. So how this works is you do have to have it pressed to the dark, and the word Bloc lock, it has a little groove cut out in the back of the ruler. And what that does is it locks right into that seam. Just locks right in there. So I just kind of set it in. You can see how it locks in there. So it's going to do the same thing. It's 2 1/2 inches. I'll cut it right there. It doesn't move. And the fabulous thing about this is I just hold those points, I spin it, and then I cut the other side. I didn't spin it quite enough. But it's locked in place in that seam, so I have no way that it's going to turn, and I have a perfect 2.5 inches. So they are a little bit more expensive than the regular ruler, but you have that groove right in there that locks right in place. So if you're concerned about getting that perfect 2.5 inch, you might want to think about getting the Bloc lock. We are selling them at the shop, and we're taking orders on them. We're ordering them this week. So you might want to think about getting this ruler. They're really great. But all of these 3 rulers will work terrific for what we're doing with these 2.5 inch squares. So that's being successful with the half square triangles. Thank you.